Hi, this is Greg the Hammer Valentine, WWE Hall of Famer. Listen to the House of Kayfabe, just like I do.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to the House of Kayfabe. I am here with Stephen P. New. I'm here with Derek Jones, my doppelganger, and I am the other Steve. And sometimes in wrestling, some of these great wrestlers just gift you wonderful pieces of content. I really hate saying the word content, but look, everybody else is talking about it, and the House of Kayfabe is going to too. Stephen P. New, MJF pipe bomb promo. What do you got?
All right, my take on this, MJF just propelled himself into and onto the Mount Rushmore of wrestling promos. This automatically, I've been watching wrestling 41 years, nonstop, 41 years, top 4 or 5 all-time promos I've ever heard.
That's a big statement from a man who's watched days worth of promos in his life.
That's just how I feel about it. I was first introduced to MJF in April of 2019 at MLW in Queens. Jim Cornette said, this young 22, 23-year-old young man, he's the future of pro wrestling, Stephen. I said, hello, Max. Nice to meet you. And he came out later that night on a great show that had the Lucha Brothers and a lot of great talent on it, and he tore the house down as part of the Dynasty. This was just an all-time. It's going to go down in the annals of wrestling history as one of the greatest promos of all time.
Now, Derek Jones, the human wrestling encyclopedia, the resident AEW fan addict. One of the things that MJF did in that promo was kind of prove his point about you AEW fans. He said, you hate something, and then you tweet 3 days later, and then you love it. Well, they booed him to death on his way out. And then halfway through, when he started saying things he agreed with, they were going through the roof. Derek Jones, how do you feel about him? I mean, let's be honest, man. He buried your boys. He buried a lot of guys that I know you like. When he says things like dropping motherfuckers on their head, I'm actually trained. He was using Jim Cornette
All
verbiage.
Friends Wrestling.
All Friends Wrestling. Derek Jones, I know you're a big MJF fan. I know you're a big AEW, the biggest AEW fan that I know. Actually, the only big AEW fan that I could stand. Tell us what you think about this, Derek Jones.
First of all, I appreciate the kind words. So I have a lot of mixed feelings about this.
I do it.
But here's why, and it has nothing to do with him putting down the rest of AEW, because what he said was, in my opinion, true and heartfelt, and it got a reaction. And I love when things get a reaction. I don't care if it's good, if it's bad, if they cheer, if they boo. Pro wrestling is designed to get a reaction. We talk about people being carnies nowadays. That was the most carny thing we've ever seen on AEW television, and it was great because they need that. They need that style of pro wrestling, sports entertainment, whatever you want to call it or refer to it, in order to generate buzz, because that's what gets eyes on the product. Here's where I'm torn on it. Was it a very well scripted promo by MJF himself? Was it planted by the company? Was it something that they said, hey, we're going to let you have 15 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes with an open mic to say whatever you want, as long as you stay within the confines of this topic? Or was it air your grievances, get it off your chest, do what you feel like you need to do, and we'll talk about it later? Because things like that have a place in professional wrestling. But if you don't have a plan to contain it, if you don't have a plan in place to say, here's what you did and here's where we go next with it, then you completely allowed your biggest potential box star draw in 5 years to bury your company in 5 minutes.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. We're really good at this shit. If y'all haven't noticed, if you haven't noticed it, we're really good at this shit. Please hit subscribe and the like button and comment and share us around to all the rest of your stupid Mark friends. What you just brought up there was what Dave Meltzer said. Now, I hate watch and listen Dave Meltzer, although I love Brian Alvarez. Dave Meltzer said that, I'll paraphrase because I don't think you all watched it. Because I think I'm the only one that actually watches or listens to Uncle Dave. And I only listen to Uncle Dave because of Brian Alvarez. That he didn't like it that he was using God Emperor Cornette's verbiage. And his quote was, and I'm not going to get it completely right, but was, if you start using Jim Cornette verbiage in AEW, you're going to make it look like a minor league promotion. And he compared it to something we talked about offline, the NWO coming out, getting super hot, destroying the whole company. You know, Kevin Nash has talked about it years later, like, you know, when Eric Bischoff was so happy about the crowd reaction that they got, and Kevin Nash said, you don't realize what you've just done. You've made WWE look like, or WWF at the time, better than your whole fucking locker room. Now, Derek, what do you say to that? Is that what you're worried about?
To an extent, yes. Because they want to compare MJF to a WWE style competitor more so than an AEW style competitor. There is a big difference between what we view now as pro wrestling and sports entertainment. And they're trying to, or maybe not trying to, but they're unconsciously allowing that style of wrestling or entertainment to overtake the rest of the show. Now, it's fine if there's a purpose for it. And AEW needs a little bit of that sports entertainment structure.
They've got the Jericho Appreciation Society.
That's a parody of what they're trying to avoid becoming. And while they're trying to avoid becoming that, they're self-inflicting becoming that.
Steve New?
I have a thought. I think you're going to see in AEW, and I don't think it's going to be any kind of a brand split or anything like this. And we've been teased with this for a little while now. You see guys like CM Punk, FTR. Now you've got MJF, who's talking about being an actual trained pro wrestler and not a backyard on your trampoline type like the Young Bucks. So you're going to see, I think, some people align in that category. I'm not even calling it sports entertainment versus pro wrestling. I'm talking about styles of pro wrestling. And you're going to have the Spot Monkey types, the Young Bucks, the Lucha Bros, and the people like that, for the people who like that kind of thing, as Jim Cornette likes to say. I think you're also going to see others like the Blackpool Combat Club, like FTR, like CM Punk, like MJF, who are going to have that. So the question to me is, what's Tony going to do with that? Is he going to line his Spot Monkey types, you know, the All Elite or whatever they're calling themselves now, oh, help me, Derek, the Elite, whatever they were in WWE.
Undisputed Elite or some shit.
Undisputed Elite. You know, you're going to have the Undisputed Elite. Imagine, if you could, the Undisputed Elite versus Punk, MJF, FTR in a Survivor Series type match, that kind of stuff. If booked well, this could work.
Oh, man, God
this
Emperor.
Could work.
The God Emperor is just going to want to call it Real Wrestling versus the Outlaw Mud Show. But see, that's not fair though, because you know, obviously Derek is of course huge Young Buck fans. I think that they're fucking herpes on the dick of wrestling. You know, wrestling has all different styles. I hear you, but I don't think it's fair to put Bobby Fish. That's just such a terrible name. They got to give him a better name. That does not pass the name test. But Kyle O'Reilly, I don't think of those guys as spot monkeys. I think they're far more to wrestling, pro wrestling than that shit.
I don't either. Well, isn't that a great angle?
Mm-hmm.
That those guys don't want to be that they align themselves maybe more. You can build this up for months.
Here's the thing that I took away from it, and it's something that he said in the big portion of the speech of his promo. And it's what I love about wrestling. It's what I love about entertainment. And it's the reason why I don't like spot monkey stuff. And it's the same reason why I don't like Michael Bay movies. Is it's a lot of like special effects and CGI shit running, flying past you. And it doesn't make you feel anything. MJF's promo made me feel like a wrestling fan. That's what I liked about it. I will pay all, like Kevin Smith said, and I've said it on here before, I will pay any amount of money to get to feel something. And I will never feel for a Meltzer driver when I've watched 25 minutes, and I know we're beating the shit out of the Young Bucks right now, but that's what MJF was talking about. Let's be honest. MJF was talking about the All Friends, the EVPs, Cody Rhodes, he got fucking fed up and he left. And, by all accounts, Cody Rhodes is a professional wrestler and not a spot monkey. He's now went on to WWE and maybe the hottest thing in wrestling, having some of the best matches ever. Tony Khan fucked that up. The fact, and Steve, this will get into some of the older promos that you talked about offline, that felt real. That's what we want. As me and Steve being the two oldest in the house to remember kayfabe, I'd do anything to fucking believe Santa Claus was real again. I'm sorry, kids. I would do anything to feel like it's real again. And that's what MJF did last night.
Well, and that's exactly right. When Hulk Hogan came to the ring, and I don't think on that first night in the Garden he had a flag, but many times thereafter, if he fought Nikolai Volkov or the Iron Sheik, he was carrying a big American flag, and Real American was playing. And as a 13-year-old kid, I thought that's America's hero, and he's going to kick the shit out of an Iranian or a Russian right now. And that made me feel, because that's what was really going on in the world in 1984 and 85 when we were having classroom drills crawling under our desks. That's a topic for another day and another show.
I was under that desk with you.
Children.
I was under that desk with you.
So, but it's all about feeling. I believed that Dusty Rhodes was the son of a plumber who come up out of the gutter when he talked about Hard Times in 1986. And there's a reason why Hard Times, almost 40 years later, is still being talked about. There's a reason why Ric Flair's diamond ring wearing Rolex, can't keep these alligators down. That stuff. There's a reason why some of Ricky Morton's promos, Stone Cold, The Rock, you mentioned the NWO, some of the stuff that they did on there now, and it was burying some of their own with talent on the time. It made WWF look like $1 million.
So, Derek, you mentioned that you're worried that they don't have a plan. Now, of course, we know AEW are purveyors of long form storytelling. For this to make the impact, because we've made an impact, right? Like, go on YouTube right now. There's fucking every video that's done something on this. It's got tens of hundreds of thousands of views. It's made an impact. Now, where are we going? What needs to happen, Derek Jones?
So what needs to happen is, all right. So let's start from the very beginning. And we'll back it up about 3 seconds from the beginning. And that first 3 seconds is Bobby Fish's real name is Bobby Fish. So leave the man alone.
It's just a bad name. You know what I mean? You can have shoot or work names, man. He's tied down by that terrible Bobby Fish.
He's Bobby the Fish, and you leave him alone.
Mr. Fish. And I love him. I think he's a great wrestler, but that name is terrible. He's fantastic.
Don't tell him it's a bad name, because I feel like he might take offense to that and would be able to defend his name.
Hey, look, if your name's Stacy, you get a better name.
Not even going to bring that up.
About Derek Jones.
All
How do we book this out to get some numbers? Because that's something we talked about the last video that I was on with Brian, when we were talking about I can't remember what we were talking about. AEW numbers. We were talking about the CM Punk versus Eric Bischoff.
Right.
How do we get numbers, man? Because you're going to need numbers. Look, I know that you all think that you are protected by this fucking billionaire, but you have multiple billionaires that's buying this fucking company, and Warner Brothers probably don't give two fucking shits. And as a DC Comics fan, I can tell you when they get a property, they don't really give a shit if you ain't making money. So look, how is Tony Khan going to make money off of this?
So in order to make money off of this, you have to do with MJF what the Bullet Club originally was doing when they were trying to get away from New Japan a little bit and start this new company. You know, we seen a little bit of it in the Monday Night Wars with DX rolling up the tank to the front door. You know, Bullet Club showed up in the limousine across the street from the arena of the WWE show. MJF needs to be an outsider on his own for a short period of time. They need to remove him from the website. He needs to be removed from the merchandising. No mention of MJF for at least a month. For 1 month, you don't see him unless you're online somewhere, unless you're at a public appearance somewhere of him being Max Friedman somewhere outside of AEW. He doesn't need to have any affiliation whatsoever. And then he needs to come back.
And
he needs to beat CM Punk for the world title in Chicago.
You're right about that, because here's the thing. They're 1-1 right now. They're right now, they're Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor. We got 1-1, and we're looking for the trio, right? We're looking for that third piece.
Right. So are we strictly talking about this from a storyline point of view, or are we talking about the realistic side of this right now?
That's what's beautiful about it. We don't know.
So on the realistic side, MJF, if you want to be world champion of AEW, if you want to be paid more than the $200,000 you're getting paid.
Is that right?
$200K. But here's the thing. Listen, who was MJF to you before AEW started? Close your mouth. Who was he to you? He was nobody.
He was the guy that God Emperor Cornette said to me on his podcast that he was the future of professional wrestling.
He was, at the time, he said he is the future of professional wrestling. And he is still technically the future of professional wrestling. But in that moment, he wasn't the present. He was the future, which means he still had room to grow. He needed the platform. He signed a contract that said, I'll take this much money for this much time. If you want more money, either extend your contract or wait it out. You sign the contract. If you know you're worth it, then continue doing what you're doing. But why should everything be put on hold? Because you feel like you're worth more than you are, even though you still haven't had an opportunity to prove it.
Well, I think he's proven it, but that will pivot us really well to Stephen P.
If he's making a fraction of what the Bucks are making, that's injustice. That is, and I'll guarantee you, it's not just the Bucks or some ex-WWE guys. Look, Paul White is probably making more than MJF. I'll guarantee you, I haven't seen their contracts, but I guarantee you that Paul White and Mark Henry are both making more than MJF. And that's a crock of crap, Derek, to say that, he signed an agreement. He had a worse deal in MLW than he has in AEW, but that doesn't mean that he should be held captive and then just sent out there to get the highest ratings of the night for the segment that he's in. But, we're going to pay you less than Paul White that we haven't seen in months, pay you less than Mark Henry that we get one cell phone video out of on Friday Night Rampage, and a fraction of some other guys who, as MJF said, couldn't lace his friggin' boots. And they can't. So he had a bad deal in MLW. He comes to AEW for a bigger platform. And he's done it. His stuff has been gold. Even the carrying Chris Jericho crap last year. MJF came through that, and he did that with a smile. So, no, what Tony Khan ought to do is pay MJF more now without demanding some 5-year or 6-year contract. You want him, give him a 1-year deal that's worth, $750, $800, $1 million bucks, and treat him right. But don't expect, my understanding of The legalities of it is Tony wants to lock him up for 5 or 6 years so he can't go to WWE. I get that as a business person, but I also get Max saying, look, we need football players do that all the time.
That's what I was about to say.
I'm a co-owner of a sports agency, and I can tell you that if a rookie comes out and rushes for 2,000 yards in his rookie year, he ain't staying at $650,000 that year. His agent is going to get together with that team, and they're going to renegotiate that deal.
Well, what you bringing up the football
works in the NFL.
You bringing up the football analogy is really apropos, because what Derek says, and I understand why you say that. You signed the contract that you signed, you got to play it out. Here's the thing: wrestlers and professional football players are one spot away from their career being over. So, MJ, dude, go fucking last draws. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he also works with people who drop you on your head and are untrained. So Steve New is someone who actually hires talent. Call Stephen P. New if you've like talcum powders fucked you up somehow. But Stephen P. New, if you have a piece of talent on your roster and this person, he or she gives you great results and they are being underpaid, and that not Stephen P. New down the street is just waiting for this guy's contract or lady's contract to be over, are you going to renegotiate to keep that talent in Stephen P. New Associates?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's very much akin to the NFL player comes out of college and he's not a high draft pick, so he doesn't get the multi-million-dollar deal. He's one of these guys, he's a 6th round draft pick from Marshall University or an undrafted free agent, and he just comes in and blisters everybody. He's an offensive rookie of the year, and he and his agent want to sit down then with that team at the end of the year and say, whoa, hey, league minimum, you can pay me $675,000 for the next 3 years. Become year 4, I'm out of here, whoever the team is. I mean, what Derek's saying is that's one way to approach it. If that guy's playing for, let's think of some cheap chintzy team, the Chicago Bears.
Hey,
and they don't want, to pay. They don't want to pay the rookie of the year. They don't want to renegotiate. They want to get 3 more years out of him at $675 and whatever triggered bonuses. That's not the smart way of doing business. And best thing to do is renegotiate his deal now, give him more upfront money, which is what he wants in years 2, 3, and 4. And the collective bargaining agreement says if you renegotiate in years 2 or 3 or 4, you can only take it out so many more years. In other words, you can't lock him up for 10 if you renegotiate in 2 or 3 or 4. But it's a capped number of years beyond year 4. Anyway, that's more than anybody wanted to know.
Well,
about.
Let's talk about it, because, like you said, you have to have someone who wants him, and now this is going to be, of course, conjecture. Do we think, in our best guesses, is MJF on WWE's radar? Are there people in WWE licking their chops wanting to pay the man? Because if there's not, MJF is pissing in the wind. Like Derek Jones, what do you think, Derek?
Derek, talk about that aspect of it,
So, you touched on something a little bit there. Barker asked if you would pay MJF more. And it's always easy to say, yes, I'll give him more. But Steve, let's all face it. Steve's the rich guy of the group here. You're not just going to give money away without some form
I'm gonna
of
send
return
Big Show and
on
Mark
your
Henry to the house.
Right? Big. Okay, so they
You're
don't.
right. I'm not going to give money away.
Right?
They don't send a Big Show and Mark Henry to the house and use that money to pay MJF.
1099s can always get cut.
Yeah, they don't need to be there anyway, and I'm 100% in agreement with that. But you're not going to just put money into something that's not going to have a good ROI. You're not going to look at something and think, I'm just going to give him more money to keep him around for 2 more years. No, if you're going to invest in him, you're going to expect something in return. And 2 years worth of ratings is not going to pay back that return. It's just not. They're too early in this new company for the next 2 years to mean that much more to them. Because if you give him more money and he's only there for 2 years and then he bounces, then your ratings drop if he's really your ratings draw.
Well, he said that he's the second, and that would, CM Punk would be first, right? And you know
Right.
that
Well,
CM Punk is making.
but I don't think you can hot shot the CM Punk deal. And if I may fantasy book that for just a minute, I would slow build it. I would do, I'd get lawyers involved on television about, who's contractual. We're going to make MJF show up tonight, and just you can do all kinds of fun stuff with that instead of just hot shot booking, bring him back in a month and he beats CM Punk. And you could even have sort of the double switch to where CM Punk wants to fight MJF because MJF's talking this mad crap. He's behind the barricades. Tony makes him go and sit behind the barricade week after week after week after week, paying him but won't let him wrestle until the point where CM Punk's tired of his mouth. CM Punk asks for the match in Chicago to finally, once and for all, shut MJF up, make him wrestle for the amount of money that Tony Khan says you're going to wrestle for, remaining on your contract. And then, boom, MJF beats him. I think you've got the double switch like Hogan and Rock. I think there's a way to book this sort of long-term thinking about it, because if you just drop this or you just tell MJF, go out there and book yourself and do your own promos, you can't have that. Question is, and this is a question for both you, Barker, and Eric Jones, does Tony Khan become more of an on-roll character?
He can't.
Boss Khan. Well, MJF's bringing him up. MJF's calling him the boss from the ring, the guy in the back. Does Tony allow himself to be booked as a Mr. McMahon type character opposite a Stone Cold? And I've seen a lot of chatter on the internet about that too. Is this where MJF becomes a Stone Cold type character, or is he more like CM Punk post in WWE? What are your all's thoughts on that, guys?
You go ahead, Derek, because I think I know.
So I'm very big on, you have to have a visual authority figure in a company. You have to. You don't have to use them every single week. You don't have to, over pollute your television with them all the time. But at some point, you will have a character that is bigger than most of your roster. MJF, Stone Cold Steve Austin, that needs someone that can't physically put them in their place, but contractual. You will do this because this is what I pay you to do type character.
I think this is generational, because I know that Derek grew up with every goddamn promotion having a head character. Well, back in my day, you only saw Jack Tunney about once every 6 fucking months. You saw Jim Crockett when he came out and gave the cup away, and you didn't fucking care about who it was.
I don't know. He occasionally came out on WTBS when Cornette would demand.
Yeah.
For instance, that he was in conspiracy with Ronnie Garvin.
He was.
And he demanded that Crockett come out. So, that's always a good maneuver. Yeah. Hey, I don't know who that James gang is there, And we just wrote them a check, and they came out here and took on the Midnight Express. So, but yeah, there was a time, before Gorilla Monsoon, when there weren't authority figures all the time. Derek, do you see Tony
being good at
reveling in a role like that? I think Tony would revel in a role of being like an on-screen character.
I honestly, I want to see him do it. I don't know that he can be the heel, because he's always so optimistic and he wants to wave the AEW flag so hard. But if you place him against a front runner top heel, then he can be the big baby face that can draw some sympathy and wave the AEW flag, and people get behind him on it. But it's going to take some work. That's as nice as I can say it. It's going to take some work.
I tell you what, man, I watched that fucking scrum, the presser after All or Nothing or Double or Nothing, whatever the fucking called. Dude, somebody tell him to shut up. Dude, CM Punk was right there cutting him off. Like CM Punk knows, CM Punk is a genius of professional wrestling. And when he went on that big rant about his fucking bullshit, Eric Bischoff, I'm an edgy fucking little millennial saying fuck on TV. Like even CM Punk was like, dude, settle the fuck down. And I'd like, dude, you know something I thought about this? Like CM Punk is not the most ethical straight edge guy I know. Because that motherfucker's taking a lot of millions of dollars from an obvious drug addict. Allegedly. See how I did there, Steve New? Like that guy doesn't fucking really believe in straight edge too much when it comes to dollars. Because man, I know what cocaine looks like.
As long as straight edge is signing the paychecks, he's all right.
Oh, shit. Are you kidding me, Tony Khan? Don't do this. You know what you should do? Derek, you're going to remember his name. Who was the work president of Lucha Underground?
Oh.
Fuck! Come on, Encyclopedia of Wrestling. Anyway, the guy that played that character was an actual actor from Mexico, and he was fucking great.
Is he the guy with MLW right now?
Yes.
Yes,
he is. He's great. Tony Khan should hire somebody to be Tony Khan. That's one thing, man. Lucha Underground had a lot of cutting edge shit. That was a great promotion. I hate that it didn't go well. And that guy, Escuela, I can't think, and I can't get off on my internet here. But anyway, Tony Khan, you cannot be on camera character. You have no gravitas. You look like what you are. A guy who's running around with your dad's money.
And if Tony ever even wanted to address that too, I don't like the scrums. I don't like the way he acts in the scrums. I think that Tony, for the sake of himself, his company, WB relations and all of that, should elevate himself. Bring in a guy like, oh crap, I'm blanking on El Jefe. El Jefe.
The boss. Yeah, El Jefe, the boss.
Yeah, El Jefe. Jefe means friend in Spanish. Mi jefe, that's boss. That's right.
Yeah, Jefe.
Yeah, amigo is friend. Yes, mi jefe, that's boss.
We know Spanish in West Virginia.
El Jefe, he's the perfect kind of guy that you're talking about. Like that, he has it on Tony's authority to tell MJF what he's going to do, or what matches he's going to be in, and that kind of stuff. And MJF, throwing that stuff, almost like Austin McMahon, but that's not what you're going for there. If you've got Tony elevated, and you have a sympathetic, like a Mark Henry type or a Paul White be your general manager of AEW or of Dynamite or the general manager of Rampage or something like that. You could actually pull that off where those guys are like authority type figures. They don't have to come out, all the time. They're living proof right now that they don't come out all the time. But in order to keep things lined up or every week, that kind of thing, they could do something with this story. They really could.
The problem, it's hard to do the Austin McMahon thing because the dynamic of that was you had two alpha males clashing. Vince McMahon is the alpha of all alphas, and Stone Cold is the alpha of all alpha, and MJF is a Giga Chad alpha. And like Tony Khan's just like a Dungeons and Dragons guy that has money. You know what I mean? Like that, it doesn't work that way. But I think we should wrap this up. I want to give everyone a chance to just give themselves a chance to wrap up what you thought when you saw what I think is one of the best promos we've seen since like fucking the CM Punk pipe bomb. And I know that's what everybody says. And, we live in this space where everybody's on YouTube trying to have a unique perspective on this sport that we love. And yes, it is a fucking sport. But it's since the pipe bomb, it's been the pipe bomb. It's that good. Stephen New, having such a good historical perspective of professional wrestling, being a fan of 40 years, what were you thinking and feeling, and where were you putting this in your timeline of wrestling fandom?
Like I said, it immediately shot up there to the top 4 or 5, and I was just in the moment. Okay. And that was the beautiful thing about it for me, is I was just able to feel it. I was able to be in the moment. It felt like, one of those old school things where some heel was going to come out there and going to cut a big promo on the authority figure, on the promotion, and that kind of thing. And it harkened back to those days where, like you said earlier, kayfabe, and that's the name of our house, but in our group chat, we're saying, is this a work or is it a shoot? That's the beauty. That's the beauty. When you don't know, is it work? Is it shoot? Or those wonderful questions that my great friend Eric Jones came up with. How much was this scripted at all? Did they give Max Friedman a mic and say, go out, you got 7 minutes limits, say whatever you want to say, to include ending with, when they're cutting you off, you effing Mark, you need to be behind the barrier. You don't even deserve to, around me. Maxwell Jacob Freeman.
So Derek Jones, before you go,
it made me feel it, and I hate to quote Kid Rock.
Oh God,
go ahead. Sorry for that. Go ahead.
So Derek, I want to give you the extra caveat because you are the Human Wrestling Encyclopedia. I want you to give me your thoughts on it, but I also want you to tell me, was that a heel promo or was that a babyface promo?
So to me, that is the first of a transition. That is the heel Max Friedman. No, sorry. Let me break this down a little more in detail. That was the heel MJF opening up as the babyface Max Friedman that will continue to push as the big anti-hero in a company that has none. And he will play that role extremely well if that's the way they do it. So to me, that is a hardcore babyface promo targeted towards another face in the company, Tony Khan, that could have completely set up anything you wanted it to. And the thing that, a lot of people, so there's a video that was shot by fans after AEW went black to commercial of CM Punk coming out to confront him and him bolting through the audience. And when I seen that, that's what makes me feel like there's some work happening, because if he really wanted to go after him, why did we wait for the camera to go black? Why did it not just happen naturally? Were they holding him in gorilla or in the dust? They call it the dusty position in AEW. Were they holding him back there? Or was he back in the, like, way back in the locker room and just started hearing it? And as soon as he said ex-WWE guys, Phil Brooks said, I'm going to go whip his ass and I'm going to get out there and nobody's going to stop me. Or was it, hey, hang out right here for just a second. We're going to send you out as soon as we go black. That part of it is what really gives me hope that there's some work happening.
So I'm going to wrap it up with this. It made me, and I'll tell you what, the last time I felt like this was the Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes match at WrestleMania. I lost myself. And that's what I want. When I see Luke Skywalker fight Darth Vader, I know the lightsabers ain't real. But when I watch that shit, I am emotionally fucking invested in who wins the fight. And that's what I want. And one of the things that I cannot fucking stand about AEW and a lot of wrestling is this meta winking at the audience. We all know that this isn't real. I want to think that Thor is a goddamn god. That's what I want. I want escapism. I got a stressful life. When I watch content, I want to be transported. And that's what MJF did. And I felt like I was like 11 years old and Steve Classic was on the recliner and I was watching fucking Ric Flair. And the problem, and you said this earlier and I didn't want to cut you off. The thing about Ric Flair promos is their shoots. That's the thing. The reason why they were so good
is because he was living that lifestyle. When he told you that he had a limousine with 17 women out back waiting for him to finish that taping, he wasn't lying to you, folks.
It's easy to be believable when it's fucking real, son.
Right.
So that's what I love about MJF, man. He makes me feel things, and he allows me to suspend my disbelief, and that's what the greatest directors do. It's what the greatest actors do, and that's what we're doing. You know, we're watching what Vince McMahon. I make movies, right? When I watch that, dude, I wanted those dinosaurs in Jurassic Park to be real, and that's what it felt like when I was watching MJF. And if you are elevating your stuff to that level, man, let's be honest, man. A lot of wrestling these days is fucking terrible, man. We spend a lot of time in our chat complaining and bitching, but man, when wrestling's good, it's the fucking best. And that's what we got last night. We all got like 8-9 minutes of stuff that Derek, one time we were talking about, like, I'm trying to make some of my kids into wrestling fans. I can't fucking do it. They keep watching this bullshit. They don't like it, right? And you said that, you have to do the work to go through the garbage to get to the gold. We didn't have to go through any garbage. We just turned our TVs on, and dude, the whole show wasn't terrible, dude.
No, and along those lines, Steve, I think if you'll notice, when Austin started doing his stuff, everybody else on the card elevated their stuff.
Yep. You can't, hey dude, you can't let Athena come out there and cut those promos when you got MJF and CM Punk doing that.
Right. So everybody else, wheat's going to get separated from the chaff here. And, the guys or the gals who can't cut it, you're going to see them, falling more by the wayside. And the people who I think have great potential, like Britt Baker, like some others, I think they're just going to up their game because they're not going to want to get outshined.
If they have pride in their
TV.
if they have pride
in their craft, then they're gonna up their game, which is what I think that Steve Austin did in the Austin McMahon angle. I think it caused everybody to up their game. DX brought a better game. Undertaker brought a better game. Mankind brought a better game. Even the mid card guys or the guys that were trying to get over. If they were on a card, Steve Austin at the top of the card, I think they were trying just a tad bit harder. And however this CM Punk MJF thing works out, whatever, I think it's going to make everybody up their game a little more.
That's why MJF hopefully will let the cream rise to the top, and the ones who don't, they can get cut and they can go get jobbed out at ASW for Stephen P. New. So with that being said, MJF, Viva MJF, for the Human and Wrestling Encyclopedia, Derek Jones, and for the heavyweight champion, trial lawyer of the world, Stephen P. New. I am the other Steve, and be on the lookout.
Best Steve.
The other Steve. Be on the lookout. We will be doing a preview of the ASW show coming up. That's going to be one of the best cards that's in the fucking country. And we're not going to talk about any of it right now because this video will go another 30 fucking minutes. But be on the lookout for that. Next week, you will see the TNA panel from WrestleCade, expertly hosted by Brian Resner. Thank you all for watching. And if you dug what we did and you think we deserve it, go hit that like, give us a comment, give us a share. Tell all the rest of the uneducated fucking marks about the House of Kayfabe.